What about intersex individuals?
I don't even know what that means, ma'am. Could you explain that? I mean, I would like an explanation. Please explain it.
I'll take it really slow.
Good afternoon. This is Sivenathi from East London, currently residing in Cape Town. I'm back again with this episode where I'll be dissecting and giving you a deeper insight about it, a topic I felt like people back at home need to hear it, and as well across the world. On today's topic, we focus on the lesser representation of the LGBTQ plus group in the media. You might be wondering or asking yourself what the LGBTQ group is. It is an acronym that stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex. As you know that this is not a term that you heard it for the first time. It's been there for as long as you know right now that LGBTQ group, it's about people that are not per se the same as you, or I don't know, but you heard the information as we go. It is a term used to encompass a diverse group of people whose sexual orientation or gender identity falls outside of the heterosexual or cisgender norms. As you know that we give ourselves names along the way, that there is homosexual, heterosexual, cisgender norms or whatsoever. But when it comes to heterosexual, it comes with the sense that it's for those relationships where there's a male and a female. But when we come with homosexual, it comes with both genders, per se, that's a male and a male in a relationship. But with that, the LGBTQ group, it's supported as well by people and a foundation that encompasses everything that has to do with LGBTQ. And this foundation is ACAS Foundation, advocating for the LGBTQ plus groups, provided a report that analyzes the media role in shaping societal attitudes towards LGBTQ communities in Africa. Drawing on a comparative media study of Uganda, Kenya, and South Africa, the report reveals widespread of exclusion, stereotyping, and systemic media bias. Moving forward with that, it reflects as well the broader socio-political tensions around sexuality and identity. Across all countries examined, LGBTQ plus individuals remain largely invisible in mainstream media. This absence is not incidental, but rather the result of institutionalized gatekeeping, lack of media training, and editorial biases, meaning that the journalists don't say much about LGBTQ group because they are not well educated about that type of information about those groups. LGBTQ plus people are frequently spoken about, but seldom spoken with. Their voices are omitted in favor of political, religious, or expert commentary. And that happens most of the time, that religion is one of the things that blocks those people to be advocate enough to talk about these topics. This exclusion reinforces their marginal status in society and legitimizes public ignorance and prejudice. The invisibility in media not only silences lived experiences, but also contributes to cultural denial, where LGBTQ plus existence is either ignored or delegitimized, especially in countries with criminalization laws. Goes to say that with that, it happens right here in South Africa, in the sense that we've seen LGBTQ groups coming out talking about what they are facing basically in the media and even at large in our communities, but no one advocates for them well enough for them to feel like they are really presented in media and at large in the society. It goes to say that there are stereotypes, sensationalism that happens when it comes to that topic.
There was a time not so long ago when the UK's trans representation in the media was...
Eddie Howard. Emily Howard? I'm a lady, Emily Howard, yes.
I've only been on the hormones 18 months. My nipples are like bullets.
I said I used to be a man.
Bastard.
a bit cringe. Transness was comedy. It had kind of always been a joke, and although times were a-changing, it wasn't clear if things were going to improve anytime soon.
Where representation does occur, it often leans towards negative or sensational portrayals. LGBTQ plus people are depicted in relation to crime, deviance, or moral decline. Headline sensational events, for instance, gay couple arrested, or coverage fixates on scandal, violence, or courtroom drama rather than portraying LGBTQ plus individuals as complex human beings. Because I feel like as well that as human beings, we are complex. We have our different ways of how we think and how we do certain things. That goes to say that even LGBTQ people are complex enough to understand that we all different in how we feel and how we think. Such depictions not only dehumanize but also perpetuate social fear and moral panic, fostering environments where hate speech, discrimination, and violence are normalized. That is normalized that if a gay person or whoever person that leans under LGBTQ group, it's okay for us to speak on them negatively on socials, whereas in our environments, we know for a fact we grew up with those people. That goes to say that we are ignorant enough to see ourselves as people who are civilized, as if we don't see that there are people that are suffering around us. But going forward, it goes to this topic as well that I've seen on, it's not a topic anyway, it's a post that I've seen on Twitter. This post on Twitter, it's about be your child's first bully. Stop being such a faggot, son. That picture depicts everything. As we drew with parents, brothers, siblings, and whoever that we have around us, that thing kills our spirit to say that I'm representing myself as this person. I'm not this person you thought I was going to be as I'm drawing. But now as a father, cutting away the fact that your child is this, it's totally wrong. Because at the end of the day, as I've said it, we are complex human beings, and in order for us to live in harmony and peace, we have to accept each other as the way we are as complex human beings. Moving from that, we have also, as we were talking about the ACAS Foundation, I found out that what they were advocating for in their analysis and in what they've done with their research in South Africa, Uganda, and Kenya is that Uganda, the media functions as an instrument of state ideology, echoing homophobic policies and political agendas. LGBTQ plus narratives are virtually absent unless framed through controversy or criminality. Kenya, media reflect ambivalence. Progressive voices exist but are often drowned out by conservative discourse. Queerness is framed as foreign or un-African, creating cultural distance and resistance. In South Africa, where I live personally, despite a progressive legal framework, queer representation is still shaped by racial and class dynamics. Black LGBTQ plus lives remain largely marginalized or tokenized, revealing the gap between constitutional rights and cultural representation. The political climate in each country deeply influences editorial decisions, with media either echoing dominant ideologies or cautiously navigating social backlash. With that, you find out that no one wants to speak out about this truth, because for the most part, most of the people in the socials and across the world is that they don't want to hear about this topic. This topic is controversial to them. Just to give you an insight in that, we grew up with these people, but then it feels like now it's a controversy for you to talk about it. How? Why? Those are the questions you should be asking yourself. But talking about that as well, in South Africa, we have one of the biggest parties, EFF, that is led by Julius Malema. Malema spoke about this thing.
In the EFF, we support the LGBTQ plus community. There is no EFF that hates gays and lesbian and transgender and how people want to define themselves.
Moving from that, activist Matthew Blaze from Nigeria talking to Hannah Ajal, a journalist, telling him how the Nigerian government downplayed LGBTQ plus people even in their laws, sourced from an article 2021. Article by the name of Unethical, Biased, and Complicit in Homophobia, Media Representations of the LGBTQ plus communities in Africa. With that, here's what I've quoted. As you can see the picture as well. Blaze mentioned Ghana is one of the examples of how the media portray the LGBTQ plus communities. On 20th May 21st, LGBTQ plus activists were unlawfully detained during a workshop where they talked about human rights. According to Matthew Blaze, journalists and news personnel teamed up with the police in order to arrest them. According to a 2018 Human Rights Watch report, Ghana has a mixed record on its treatment of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. It also has a colonial law that criminalizes unnatural carnal knowledge in Section 104(1)(b) of its Criminal Offences Act, which the authorities interpret as penal penetration of anything other than a vagina. The media seem to be complicit in homophobia. We have seen the language they use referring to LGBTQ plus people and activists to be very dehumanizing and homophobic. In Nigeria, the media still misinform the government when it comes to LGBTQ plus affairs. This is seen across sub-Saharan Africa too, says Matthew Blaze. I think that says it all about what is happening currently in the media and in the society at large. But moving from that, I went and checked information as well about the country that is largely known as the pinnacle of the media industry, United States. From the United States and the rest of the world, on October 26, 2015, NY-based media organization GLAAD launched its annual Where We Are on TV report. They analyzed the overall diversity of primetime scripted series regulars on broadcast networks and looked at the number of the LGBTQ characters on cable networks and streaming services for the 2015 and 2016 TV season. They found that transgender characters are completely absent from primetime broadcasting programming, and only 3 recurring trans characters were counted in the cable, which is that 2%. Streaming services boost the highest percentage of transgender characters at 7%, notably being series leads. However, of the 7 total trans characters counted, only 1 was a transgender man. That goes to say with, as well, what I'm going to be talking about, the gender equality in that. And coming from that is a quote from the owner and the president of the GLAAD at that time. Each of us lives at the intersection of many identities, and it's important that television characters reflect the full diversity of the LGBTQ community, said Sarah Kate Ellis, CEO and president of GLAAD. It is not enough to just include LGBTQ characters. Those characters need to be portrayed with thought and care to accurately represent and offer tokenized community. That also tells you so much about the LGBTQ, how it should be represented in the media. Moving from that, I will be posting as well the stats and everything along the way, with the years from 2015 to 2016 to where we are standing right now. But I want to move to that and go to this, one of the major things, broadcasting TV, major drop. What happened is that only 3 characters, trans characters, appeared on broadcast television at that time, which is between 2023 and 2024. Represents less than half of the number in the previous season. Streaming platforms like Netflix, Prime Video, Hulu included 19 transgender characters. Trans characters made up 5.8% of the LGBTQ plus characters on these platforms.
In 2020, this statistic suggests LGBTQ characters are represented pretty well, actually. However, this is just one statistic in the reports. It tells us nothing about the quality of representation. A story featuring an openly queer leading character counts just the same as a stray shot that can be cut for the international market. GLAAD observes even when queer characters do appear, around half do so for less than 10, 3, or even just 1 minute of screen time. Even films that do feature queer characters prominently aren't necessarily positive examples of representation. Plus, not all identities are represented equally, skewing heavily towards white, gay, male characters. Queer women, bisexual people, and queer people of colour feature much less frequently. Transgender and non-binary characters haven't appeared at all for the last 4 reports, and they have no figures on asexual characters.
Moving from that, as I was saying that there is this gender inequality that goes with transgender thing as well. Representation still lacks racial and gender diversity. Many LGBTQ plus characters are white, cisgender, and male. Non-binary and asexual characters are still very rare across platforms. And some of the things that as well, like that downplay the characters, as you're going to see the pictures as well, you would see that they cover up most of the things that supposed to be shared and heard by this generation and the generation before this generation we are living in right now, to know that there is LGBTQ people out there and they want full representation as well as straight people.
Or erased through the process of adaptation, be it of a historical figure who was queer in real life, or a fictional character who was queer in the source material. Taking a story and removing the queerness from it is obvious homophobia, and
one of the movies that demonstrated well enough and it was successful for this kind of representation, it's Moonlight, produced in 2016. That movie gave you an insight, as you're going to see as well, like a short clip that shows you the overall success of the movie.
Moonlight is unapologetically a story about being gay, yet it performed better than most independent films, finding an audience beyond just gay people. Because it's also about being black, about being male, about growing up, about finding your identity. In audience Q&As, director Barry Jenkins was surprised at the diversity of people who described the film as relatable. It just goes to show, you don't have to be queer to identify with a queer story. As film critic Chris Knight said in his review of Moonlight, to connect with a broad audience, make your story about a specific person. Because individuality is, ironically, the one thing we all have in common. What's more, you don't even have to identify with a queer story to find something valuable in it.
It goes to tell you that there's so much that we can do to support and show out for other people as well that are not the same as you. And also, like, the story as well tells you that it's not about you being part of that group, but you understanding the story and getting the gist of what is happening, basically, on someone growing up, not understanding his identity. It goes to say that there's so much that you can do to help others as well, to move further with their lives without even having to feel like they are less than you. I think I've said it all, but I want to conclude and say that according to Full Focus Therapy blog, boosting self-esteem and confidence, this thing of seeing someone who's like you on TV, it boosts your confidence, as well as seeing a straight person achieving and doing whatsoever in life. When you see queer characters being celebrated for who they are, it's a reminder that you are worth celebrating too. Positive portrayals can boost self-esteem, showing you different models of what queer life can look like, role models to look up to. Remember that first time you saw a character on TV who made you feel seen, a non-binary character navigating life with ease, or a trans woman enjoying her femininity. Different depictions of queer life can help you feel proud of who you are. These characters can become sources of hope and inspiration, showing that a fulfilling life is possible no matter your identity. Building community and belonging, because each and every one of us wants to belong somewhere. Good representation doesn't just make you feel good on your own, it can help you find community. Fandoms can be a powerful force. Having a favorite character or podcast in common can spark a genuine human connection. Forming queer community with people who love what you love is a great response to the isolation we can sometimes focus on. One of the good comments that I've seen on the videos that I was looking at on YouTube, this comment says, good representation is the ones where it's all mixed together and more variety is shown. We need to have an equally variety of characters and story. If we have a story with a straight protagonist, we need one story with a different LGBTQ protagonist, one with a gay, a lesbian, bisexual, and etc. If the main couple of the story is a girl and a girl pair, we need a story where the main pair is a male and a male. Another when the character is another when they are pansexual, bisexual. I mostly watch cartoons, and as much as I love what we got, I'm already tired of seeing just lesbians getting the protagonist spotlight. I want to see male characters, non-binary characters as well. Without having to do much about this, I want to say thank you for you guys to listen and get to understand where I'm coming from for this topic. I hope this inspires you and makes you understand that it's not about you sometimes, it's about the next person that is next to you, or someone who's gonna see this and feels like, oh, I can do it as well, oh, I can do better as well. Thank you.